Hi, I'm Lena Zhilinskaya. I am a sophomore in construction engineering and management, and last summer I worked with Kite Realty on two major projects. The first project I worked on was Glendale Town Center in Indianapolis. This project was really interesting. It was a combination of three different types of construction. So the first type is residential. We actually built six different types of apartment complexes on our site. Another part of construction was transportation. We redid some of the roads that are around our site, as well as touch up and repave most of our parking lots for our biggest tenant, Target. Finally, we did our retail construction, which was the biggest part that I was a part of for this project, and it was just the creation of 5 different tennis spaces from an existing building. More on the retail side of the project, the retail part was just the transformation of the second level of an old Macy's building that wasn't being used anymore. From the second level, it was actually cut up and constructed into 5 different tenant spaces. For our construction, mostly on the project, we did the interior walls, just cutting up the existing space, into 5 different tennis spaces. The exterior finishes, as you can see in the bottom picture, some of the storefronts and signs that go along with the storefronts, as well as the sidewalks and storefronts outside of each tenant space, and the parking lots in front of the tenant spaces as well. In these pictures, you can see the different types of construction that went on inside actual tenant spaces. It was really interesting to see how different tenants wanted their spaces to be constructed. I would say from each tenant, we mainly had 4 out of the 5. Each tenant was very particular on how they wanted their space to be constructed. The main differences I saw was that our tenant, Old Navy, they did not want their space to be constructed as much as another tenant like Five Below. So Old Navy was constructed pretty much to the bare bones. So all we did was just a storefront and everything on the exterior, as well as interior walls that kind of sectioned them off from the other tenants. Five Below, on the other hand, we pretty much did everything on the inside of the construction. As you can see, we built the interior walls for things like the offices and the bathrooms, as well as lighting and electrical. My responsibilities on the site was mainly dealing with the retail side of the construction, so I barely worked on the transportation and apartment complexes. But since I mainly worked on with the 5 national tenants, 4 of which were the ones that were in the old Macy's building, and the other one was the Target across from the parking lot. I worked with these tenants to compose and discuss their progress on their spaces. Although the Target one, they didn't have a space, we were just working on their parking lot. So that was one of the progresses I had to discuss with them. But with the other 4 tenants that we were creating their spaces for, I had to take progress pictures of each space and send it out to them on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I also set up meetings with them to discuss the progress of their spaces and lead these meetings, although it was very scary. I had my coworker lead them with me. And I also met with our general contractor to discuss the project progress. Our second project that I worked on was Nora Plaza. It is located also in Indianapolis on 86 and College. This project is not as big as the Glendale project. It was not a tenant space renovation or construction. It was more of a pavement and water line construction. So the main idea for this project was just to replace a water line that was going through the parking lot of these tenant spaces, as well as around the back. It was the repaving of the parking lot as well, for the whole section as well. My responsibilities, I didn't have many responsibilities for this project. I generally did the early takeoffs and costs for the plaza if we were to replace all of the pavement in the parking lot and things like that. I also walked out on the site quite a few times and took the construction plans with me just to jot out if there's any possible problems with the construction documents compared to the real life placements of the construction things. Biggest challenge for this summer was definitely understanding the construction documents. Compared to Nora Plaza, where I came into the project very early on because it started in the middle of the summer. Glendale, I came into the project right in the middle of construction, so I had to understand most of the construction terms and construction documents very quickly to understand what was going on and just to catch up. So that was one of the biggest challenges, just to quickly learn what is going on while I'm out on site. Another challenge I had was reaching out and talking to others in the field. It was very tricky to develop relationships with others on the field, since I was an intern and I'm quite new to the construction industry. So just developing those relationships was a very big challenge for me. Another challenge was just general teamwork with other people on different projects. In addition to the Nora Plaza project and the Glendale project, I also worked on a project with our interns that were also in the office, on a different project that we actually presented in front of the company. So the dynamic between different teams was very interesting to see and hard to adjust to. So that was another challenge. And finally, the last challenge, I think the biggest challenge I faced this summer was learning retail and construction terms. I do have a background in construction, so I do know most of the terms, but adding on that retail side was very difficult for me to understand and adjust to, such thing as like reading leases and understanding terminology. My greatest triumph during the summer was designing a concrete base for a monument sign for our tenant Target. This sign was originally resting in a place called a right-of-way of the city of Indianapolis after construction kind of ended. So we needed to replace the sign somewhere else so that it's not in conflict with the city. So I was put on the placement of the sign, designing the concrete base, and just generally scheduling the sign to be put in. So it was really interesting taking on different responsibilities on that aspect of the project. So I'd say it's my greatest triumph of the whole summer, because the base was actually designed, poured, and installed by the end of the summer, although I was not able to take a final picture of it. But that is a picture of it being poured. Finally, lessons learned during the summer. I learned quite a few lessons. Most of them it is just teamwork based. So one big lesson I learned is it's okay to reach out for help. Being a person who struggles with reaching out for help and just teamwork in general, I learned very quickly that in a business like construction and adding retail to it, I got lost very quickly. So I had to reach out for help for many things. So that's one big thing I learned. Another thing I learned is teamwork is very important. Most things you can't be done alone. So they're having a lot of people on it makes things go by very quickly. And finally, I wish I knew how to organize my work to be the most efficient for meetings, because I've never been in general meetings before. So I wish I learned early on how to prepare for those.